When things feel a bit chaotic, Instacart helps deliver milk and sausage. Add a little life to your cart. Get stuff from literally all your stores, from baby wipes to albacore. Add a little life to your cart. Instacart helps get your groceries. Your first 3 deliveries are free.
Download Instacart. Add life to cart. Terms apply.
My guest is Jonathan Hammond. He's a teacher, energy healer, shamanic practitioner, and spiritual counselor. Now, he didn't start out as somebody who was familiar with the Hawaiian lifestyle, the Hawaiian spirituality. And somehow, the way we do things in this life is we stumble into something and all of a sudden find out that was our calling. I want you to start, because you were an actor. You've done all the stuff, Broadway, some television background, the whole 9 yards. And then you flipped and went into energy healing, which you were trying to go into in more of a clandestine mode so people wouldn't think you were too woo. From there, then the spirituality aspect blossomed. So I would love to hear your background, your story, and how this played out for you.
Yeah, so I did my first play when I was 4, and my parents, and I was always imitating things on television that had super active imagination. And I think my parents just thought that I must be an actor. And so I now kind of know that like what I was really doing was channeling. Because when you think of acting, what you're doing is you're learning the lines, you're learning the blocking, and then you hope for inspiration to come through. Yeah. And it was always the yearning for the inspiration coming through that always fueled my artistry in my life as an artist. I wasn't so much a fame-driven actor. I really it was more about telling stories and lifting people up or making people forget their problems or illuminating something in some way. And what I found in my career as an actor, despite relative success, was that I wasn't having the reach that I wanted to have because I think the nature of show business. I'd always had a very rich spiritual life since about my mid-20s, and I thought when I started working with meditation and that kind of stuff, I thought it was just kind of traverse the difficulties of show business, that like a coping mechanism. But it just kept taking up more and more and more space in my life, and then I had a series of events, some of which I write about in the book, in Hawaii. And elsewhere around the world, because I was really doing a dual life where I was in this life that made sense and that I'd gone to school for, and then there was this other, as you said, this kind of clandestine calling that was always right next to it, and I couldn't marry the two. And then there was a certain point where I had a real, I can only describe it as a visitation with something on the volcano in Maui. And that opened something up, a visitation with spirit, with God, whatever you want to call it. And I received the message that it was time to hang up the tap shoes, so to speak, and start. And I had already been in this life, but really to go into life as a spiritual teacher and a spiritual healer full time. And once I made the decision, and it really did happen on one day. I definitely went through an identity crisis, but the decision was made on one day based on something that happened in Hawaii, and that sort of set the course of events for what would be the next almost 15 years of my life, which was, as I said, as a spiritual teacher and shamanic practitioner and spiritual counselor, and I just kind of never looked back. And just to say, when you feel this, when anyone feels this calling, where you're called to do something that doesn't make sense to your family or to the long-held values that you've had, but it still excites you anyway, even though it's scary, follow it, because it really is. I think it's crazy in this culture that we teach 18-year-olds to figure out what they're supposed to do, take out hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loans, and that's what they're going to do for the rest of their life. And that's just not the way life really is. And something else developed in me, and so I really encourage everyone, if you're feeling a call, particularly at this time on the planet, it's such a transformational time. If you're feeling that call, to follow it, because there's something there that's really real.
And the book is The Shaman's Mind, the Huna Wisdom to Change Your Life. Jonathan Hammond is the author. I also have the little book, that little pink booklet from Serge King. I ordered that maybe 20 years ago, however long I've had that. What was your connect with him?
Cherokee King is my teacher, and this is after many years studying different shamanic cultures. I've worked with shamans directly on 3 different continents. It was that experiences that I kept having in Hawaii that kept bringing me back to something about Hawaii, and then I began to dig into the culture and the spiritual heritage and the shamanic lineages of Hawaii, and that got me in touch with Serge Kahila King, who, when I met, I think he was around 80, and I began a course of study with him with Aloha International, and everything that he taught. In fact, I dedicated The Shaman's Mind to him. The book is dedicated to him, even though I don't think he would agree with all of it, to be honest. But that's okay. That's okay. You differ from your teachers. That's the nature of it. But that began a 2-year study with him, and what I learned in the Hawaiian tradition was a culmination of what I was learning in all of these different cultures that I had worked with, and all these different shamanic lineages and Reiki and energy healing, and it all culminated in a philosophy called Huna, which was something that it made me aware that if you follow this philosophy, and it's a very simple philosophy, much of which you've heard variations of before, that you actually, and integrate it, you actually enter into how shamans cross-culturally think, how they view the world, what their worldview is, how they think about energy, how they think about the nature of their own power, the nature of their own thoughts. And what I found in this Hawaiian philosophy was a universal paradigm about how shamans tend to think. And having observed shamans, like I said, on 3 different continents, I found something that was related to all of them. And even in all my shamanic travels, I kept seeing that they were all kind of doing the same thing. There would be different traditions, different practices, different cultural paradigms, but all the shamans that I worked with were all sort of doing the same thing. And I found that culminated in this philosophy. And I was so excited about it because it's such a simple philosophy, although so deep when you get into it, that I wanted to teach it to others, because it made me realize that we can all learn to think as the shamans do, to enter into the magical thinking of the shaman.
This book is so easy to follow. You've done a wonderful job of making it accessible. And I understand there are traditional ways of sharing medicine and sharing power and sharing insight. The walls seem to have come down in recent years. People are sharing, they're putting their wisdom out to a wider audience, saying now is the time to bring our best self forward. I also saw that you were, in addition to the Reiki, that you also had a background in the Cherokee Bodywork.
I do.
So all of this, not growing up in any of those cultures, at the same time, though, appreciating and loving and bringing those cultures forward in a way that makes them accessible to a wider group. And sometimes that's what it takes.
That's absolutely right. It's a limitless universe, which means that separation is merely an illusion. One of the foundational principles in Huna. And what that is really getting at is that there's only one mind, and human beings are tuned into the same consciousness. So while I'm very, very sensitive to cultural appropriation, this is a time on the planet where we have to come together as a global village. And what I have found as an interfaith minister, as a shamanic practitioner, having worked with all these different cultures, is that everyone, that truth is truth, righteousness is righteousness, humility is humility, love is love, healing is healing anywhere. And what I'm finding is that this is a time on the planet where those walls have to come down. Having worked with shamans on 3 different continents, I have never been taught something by them where they say, I'm teaching you this, but make sure you don't share it with anyone. Yeah. I've never had that experience.
Yeah.
And so I think that we have to be careful about not being too precious, but acknowledge where it came from. Absolutely. And in fact, a part of the proceeds of my book go to the Hawaii Wildlife Fund, just so I'm paying back to the land where this information came from. But it's so important that we recognize that this is a global effort now, a time on the planet, a huge ascension and shift in consciousness that has to happen, and it's difficult and it's scary and it's tumultuous, but it is happening. And it has been prophesied by so many indigenous cultures about this time on the planet that it would be this kind of very dark time, but that we would get to the other side of it. And it was because of the light workers, the light bearers, the healers, the people who want to live in right relationship with the earth, who shepherd in that new way of being. And so all this esoteric wisdom that is now widely available to us is for those people who are shepherding in that new consciousness. And that's why it's so important that we honor. We have to think the spiritual intelligences of the universe know what they're doing. And the fact that all of this esoteric wisdom is available to us has happened for a reason. And it's important that we honor that and not get too precious with it. And again, cultural appropriation is so important and important to acknowledge, but it's for us. It's for us. It's for us continuing on this planet.
Backtracking a little bit, a meeting with a totem animal to find out what that's about. That's the part of shamanism I really love. Jonathan Hammond, Shaman's Mind, Huna Wisdom to Change Your Life. And we're going to get into the Huna aspect. But first, I posted on Facebook just the day before we met this picture of a man walking a giant tortoise across an intersection in a metro area. And this tortoise, I mean, this is one of those, 200, 300-pound gigantuous things and a being. And I've had my own turtle as a pet. He was a beautiful soul, and you looked at him and he looked right back at you. He had character, he had essence, he had soul and wisdom. You have a turtle as your totem, and you say you don't always have, you're not supposed to mention that. Well, I have a totem animal as well. It's not a turtle, but I wanted to talk with you about, okay, how did you meet your turtle, and how did this, because this is part of the shamanic element that connects us to a larger world.
Yeah, in shamanism, we revere nature. We worship nature. And we think of nature as a sentient being, and all aspects of nature as having a consciousness. So everything from a Huna perspective and from a shamanic perspective is alive, conscious, and can relate to our thoughts. And Huna takes it a step further and says everything wants to relate to our thoughts. So these beings in nature that make contact with us, they do so for a reason, and they have medicine for us. So many years ago, I was in Belize, of all places, and I had a dream. And the dream was just this giant turtle that just swam with me and communed with me. And I woke up, and turtle was all of a sudden on my radar. The next day, I was doing a snorkeling trip, and I came face to face with a turtle, and we had a stare down, literally the next day. And that preceded this love affair, both in my consciousness and in the real world, because if there's a turtle on a billboard, if there's a turtle structure, if there's a turtle that's carved by the elements in stone, I will find it. It's just that they follow me around, and I had many experiences with turtle certainly in Hawaii. And turtle represents Mother Earth.
Yes.
Turtle is an ancient being and a loving being. And there's a sense with turtle of that wherever you go, you're home. And that there's so much wisdom in that medicine. That was something that I came across that has just become so. And when you think of an animal ally, it's like it's the spirit of the animal, mm-hmm. and it's a sense of that they're your buddy, they're a spirit guide, they're even a guardian angel for you. That's how I tend to think of them.
In the book, when you're talking about the experience you had in Hawaii, the rock formation where you lay down on the blanket, the towel, and then you turn around, you take a picture, and you can see the turtle face. It's just, that is absolutely brilliant.
It was absolutely crazy. I mean, I talked about that visitation experience I had that changed my life. And I was laying down because I couldn't sit up. I was actually laying down in the lava rock and having this experience. And then when it was over with, I took my cell phone out and I just took pictures all around my head because I hadn't begun to process this deep communion I was having with spirit. But I knew that I wanted to remember the place that I was in. And when I got back to the hotel that I was staying in, I looked at the pictures, and right next to my head, and there's a picture of it in the book, is a turtle face. I mean, it is unmistakable, smiling at me, literally right next to my head. And at that point, turtle had been around for many, many, many years, so it was shocking, but it also wasn't surprising.
I just think it's hilarious because there it is, like he was whispering, or the being was whispering in your ear, and if you hadn't taken those pictures to get the panoramic view, you might have missed that huge, huge billboard that said, "Can you see me now?" Ha 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 ha.
That's right. That's right. And if you just, the first principle of Huna says the world is what you think it is. The world is what you think it is, which means that if you go into nature with the idea that nature is going to speak to you, is going to communicate with you, is going to offer you advice, that's exactly what nature will do. Similarly, if you just think a walk in the forest is a nice walk in the forest, you won't have that experience. But if you open yourself to the fact that we're not only connected in one mind, there's only one organism. We're all a singular aperture through which the oneness sees itself. So we're not separate from anything. We are all part of one organism. And so that means that when you take a walk in the forest, you're taking a walk just through another part of you, and that part of you speaks to you.
What I hate to do is skip around because there's so much wisdom in this book. The cosmology of the Hawaiian spirituality is important. I want to get to the three selves. So can you take me through the other and to the three selves? I'm kind of skipping ahead, but there's
okay.
Okay. Just take me through the cosmology and the words, the language, because that's also, those are key.
Sure. So essentially, we all know there are all kinds of ways to divide the self. The simplest way to do it is by three: body, mind, and spirit. And from a Huna perspective, and actually cross culturally in many of the indigenous cultures, the Lakota, the Cherokee, the Orisha of Africa, the Shuar in South America, they all talk about three selves or three souls. So you have the conscious mind, which in the Hawaiian tradition is called Lono. You have the body mind, which is the unconscious mind. So you're not consciously beating your heart. There's something doing that. That's the unconscious body mind that keeps you alive and that also stores memory. And then you have your spiritual self, which is your higher self. And the easiest way to understand your higher self is that anytime you feel a sense of inspiration, anytime you feel a sense of, I want to reach towards that potential, or anytime you appreciate beauty, certainly pray or anything like that, you're making communion with your spiritual self. And that's called Kane. The unconscious mind is called Ku. And in Huna, what we do is we learn to synthesize those three selves. And it begins with a choice in the unconscious mind to actually address that which is in our unconscious mind. Because when you think about our problems, the patterns where we're stuck, the low self-esteem, the addiction, the bad behaviors, all of those things, those are lodged in the body. Those are unconscious patterns that we usually learn to do in childhood, or we learned about ourselves in childhood. So the conscious mind makes a choice to change the material in the unconscious mind because you become aware of it. You say, I see this pattern, I see this self-loathing, I see this self-hatred, I see this, I don't look right, I see this sense of, I learned that money's a problem from mom and dad, and so money lives in me as a problem. And the conscious mind makes a choice to actually address that unconscious pattern, change it, and in doing so, spirit then recognizes that it has a different person to work with. So we create a vessel down here through our minds and through what we're holding in our body and holding in our unconscious mind that puts us in sympathetic vibration or harmonic resonance with the divine. And the more that we're extending love to ourselves, consciously extending love to ourselves, the more that we're actually in that sympathetic vibration with the divine, because the divine is only love. And so when you see those memes on Facebook that say, did you remember to love yourself today? That isn't something cute. That's actually a spiritual directive that if you would actually do it, if you would actually extend love to yourself, because the parts of you that are hurt, that are constricted, that feel badly about themselves, those were all born of unlove. And so to give love to those parts of you is to then invite in the gift of the divine to bring this new reality into being and to heal those parts of you. So we align our conscious mind to the unconscious mind, and then spirit just follows our lead and brings us whatever it is that we create. So that's a very simplistic explanation, but that's what we're doing in the three selves. We don't know that we're as divided as we are. Jung talked about the persona and the shadow, the sense of what we present to the world and that which is hidden and underneath. And we have to excavate what is hidden and underneath, because that actually has been around longer, because we usually learned it in childhood,
mm-hmm.
and that is what is running the show. Unless it goes unattended to, that's what runs our show. And spirit can only work with what it is that we're believing and creating and how we feel about ourselves. So I often give the example: if you're a woman over 35 and you have a belief, a deep-seated belief, because mom told you that all women over 35 end up alone, then and you get to 35, and that is what you are sending out into the world because that you believe that is an unconscious belief that is deep inside you. Spirit would love to stick the guy next to you on the subway, but Spirit says, I don't have anything to work with. If I sent her the guy, she wouldn't even be looking for him anyway. So our belief, what we hold in our body, what we hold as our reality, indicates to Spirit what we can receive.
There are many ways to do a shamanic journey. One of the things you do is provide that in the book, and this is the shamanic journey to, is it Kahunas?
Kahunas, yeah.
Okay, I want to get into that because you also tease that in the first part of the book. Okay, unifying the three selves. Jonathan Hammond is the instructor, and you teach with the Omega Institute. I mean, this is something that once you dedicated yourself, you build up quite a track record, and there are a lot of people who I think have benefited from your work and continue to discover you. And one of the things that's important in any kind of shamanic work is the journeying, and you set a really nice example of how this can flow with the writing that you include in the chapter Working with the Three Selves.
Yeah, so a shamanic journey is simply, when you think about what a shaman does, the shaman is simply accessing those parts of reality that are not consensus reality. So there's a lot that's happening underneath the surface. There are different worlds that we can enter, different frequencies, and the shaman consciously goes into those realms to access power, to work with spirits. That's essentially what a shamanic journey is. And while that seems sort of highfalutin, it's very simple. We did this as children. We went into a conscious daydream, and in doing so, using our imagination, created and came into contact with these alternative realities and with these, quote, imaginary friends, which we might call spirits or spirit guides. And so in a shamanic journey, what we're doing is they're very simple to do, but we're consciously entering into a daydream for healing. So so a lot of people are not sure about that high self, that higher self. What is that? Is that when I'm being my most behaved and my most good? And it's not that at all. And so I bring you into a journey, and there's all kinds of ways to reach the higher self. This is just one way to do it.
Yeah.
Kane Hunamoko. Kane is the higher self. That's the word in Hawaiian. And then Hunamoku is the secret island. So it's our higher self secret island. So we journey to that fantastical place in order to meet our higher self, learn about our higher self, our highest potential, what our highest potential is, what's available to us. I often think when we talk about the higher self, imagine who you are at your most realized, make it twice as good, and you'll be in the ballpark.
Yeah.
That's the higher self.
Aim high.
Aim high. And so that's what we're doing on that journey. But there's all kinds of ways that's just one specific journey in the book. But there are all kinds of ways to do a journey. And it's just, you can even think of it as simple as just getting very quiet with yourself, going into a beautiful imagined place in nature, and asking for healing, asking to meet a guide, asking advice on something that's going on in your life. And if you just allow yourself to relax into it, something will happen. Something will always happen. You'll sense something. You'll hear something. You might see it. You might just have a feeling. It might be that it's not quite clear, but then it becomes clear a week later when when something else happens in your life. Things get clarified, but you're just entering into that underneath reality place where the shaman accesses all of this wisdom and information and healing.
You also talk in the book that you save it for the last ho'oponopono. And people have heard that word, and still there's a learning curve of how do you access this, what is it about, and how do you implement it in your life?
Yeah, ho'oponopono is it's a Hawaiian healing practice, and it is about the alignment of those three selves through love. The easiest way to understand it is that conscious mind sends love to that inner child. It's usually or contemporary Ho'oponopono uses 4 phrases: "I love you," "I'm sorry," "Please forgive me," "Thank you." And I go into in the book I go into great detail about what those phrases actually mean, who you're talking to, why you're saying them, and all of that. But the conscious mind extends the love to the inner child who learned that they are something other than divine and perfect and whole and lovable and worthy. And so the conscious mind extends love to that inner child. In the face of that love, that inner child begins to recalibrate their identity and learn that they are deserving and lovable and worthwhile, and it shifts something in terms of our sense of self. And in extending that love, then the higher self, which has direct access to the divine, says to the divine, "We got some healing going on down here. Let's bring them divine love." And then what the Hawaiians call the Mauna Loa, the highest power or the divine power, comes down into us and brings us healing. So that's a really simplistic way of explaining Ho'oponopono. It's very deep, and it's not just the individual practice of Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono is a lifestyle. It's about that we are always in this loving relationship with ourselves and with the wounds that we carry, and we're extending loving attention to them over and over and over again, which puts us in alignment with the divine. And so every action you take, every thought you think, every person that you invite in your life, if you make those choices based on the idea, is love's perspective present? Is aloha here? When you make choices based on love being present, you usher in divine influence to help co-create a life that is in alignment with your highest potential.
What it does is set you up for the final chapter where you say, I had one more element to add to this book. And so there you are in Hawaii. This is a beautiful way to, I think, bring everything all back together in that circle of the inner child.
Yeah, I've been writing the book for at that point about a year and a half, and I've been lucky. I'm able to go to Hawaii a lot, but I live in New York City. Although I just bought a condo in Maui. I'm moving next year, which I'm very thrilled about.
Yay!
Yay! But yeah, I had almost finished the book, and I went back, and I hadn't been there, and I think having written the book for a year and a half and so connecting with the islands and this wisdom in my mind, when I reached a beach that I had been to hundreds of times, I saw it differently, and I saw the landscape differently, and I realized that the reason why I was here really was not because I'm clever, not because I can afford it, not because I wrote a book on Hawaii, but because I have been taking care of this little boy, and the last thing on this little boy's radar is that he would ever have gotten Hawaii. And so the culmination of the book is really about that I'm here because of loving this part of me that has been so hurt. I'll tell my clients, I'm a healer because I need so much healing.
Yeah.
That's, and because it's co-creative. What you heal in the other, you heal in yourself. And so the intention or the aspiration of the book is that everyone, through loving yourself, through monitoring the thoughts you think, the actions you take, the people you invite in your life, through loving yourself, you invite in your own version of Hawaii, your own Hawaii, and you create a life that is as sumptuous as that paradise. And we all have the ability, with literally our thoughts, to do that.
JonathanHammond.com, the website, shamanic healing, spiritual and intuitive counseling, chakra balancing, weddings on Maui. I think the next go-round is going to be in the fall of 2021. Wow. Breath work, men's work. Okay, it's all there on your website. What's your favorite? Now that you're moving to Maui, maybe we've already answered that.
I don't think I have a favorite modality, but I do crave. Healing is like a real thing. Like, healing actually happens. Like, people really do get better. And I just had a client the other day, and it was the first time client. She presented her story, and I sort of told her what I thought we were going to do together. And she said, "Am I a lost cause? Is this can this happen? And I said to her, if it didn't, I'd be so depressed. It really does happen." And so I think more than anything else, it's just that when I see the light bulb go off, when I see people actually make the changes, and when I see people actually value themselves in a different way, take up more space in their life, know that they matter more, know that their feelings matter more, know that it doesn't matter what anyone thinks. And when you can organically come to that for yourself, it shifts how you walk through the world. And the world becomes your world. And I crave that for everyone. So it's in my private practice, that more than anything else, that's what I do. I have all these different modalities, but it's all to just get us there.
Okay, I want to come back because this is the part that Hawaii, I think, speaks to in everyone, and it's the element of magic. The book is The Shaman's Mind, Huna Wisdom to Change Your Life. With so much going on right now, everything up in the air, a lot of confusion, a lot of turmoil, this is a good time to reconnect, redirect, and introduce a topic designed to unite us rather than divide us. You talk about sharing in the book with the partner who is a part of this. When you had your experiences, was it mirrored?
Yes, it was. I mean, I think that it's important that we recognize that who we choose to spend our life with. A good relationship is one where you say to someone, "This is who I need to be today," and they say, "What can I do to help?"
Yeah.
And then when you fail tomorrow, they say, "I thought you were going to do that." That's a good relationship. Because and that's one of the. There's another version of Ho'oponopono which has to do with cord cutting, with energetically cord cutting. And when I learned it, it was taught that that the teacher would even do this with their child. And the idea is, I see you clearly, new every day. And as much as you need me to be your dad, you also need to be your own person. And so I am cutting the cord, and I'm seeing you because a child is different yesterday than they are today, and we are no different. And so to be in a relationship where there's a sense of fluidity and a sense of I have room to grow, and that isn't a threat to you, and that's a reciprocal relationship. That's a relationship that will keep enduring.
There was a telling sentence in the book when you were saying all of a sudden you had the insight that it wasn't Maui that you needed to go to. You needed to go to a different island, and it was 6 weeks out, and you called your partner and said, "Okay."
Yep.
And he's like, and you said, "Well, he knows I do stuff like this."
Yeah. I mean, I literally, I had a. That's right. I had a journey in my office, and we both love Maui. That's where we're moving, and I had a journey in my office, and the journey, and there was a Polynesian woman in my journey who's a spirit guide, and she said, "You have to come to Maui," you have to come to Kauai. So I called up my partner and I said, "We have to go to Kauai and we have to change the reservations." And he's totally used to me. And he said, "Why do you say that?" I said, "Because I did a shamanic journey, and that's what this Polynesian spirit guide told me that I should do." And that was exactly, and we had formative experiences on our trip to Kauai. Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to include that because it's so powerful when you have a partner, a support system, somebody who's there and allows you to just be you, whether you sink or swim, you fly or you coast or you struggle. They're there and say, "Okay, that's who you are. Yep, got that. You get to be you."
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Jonathan Hammond, my guest. If you want to go to Hawaii, you feel like getting married just for the heck of it, or, re-cementing your vows, or whatever, one way or the other, you have to have an excuse to go to Hawaii. This is your person, all right? JonathanHammond.com. You had a bunch of psychics who were sharing your office. And at this point, you had been very quiet about what you were doing in Hawaii, hadn't told anybody. And somebody called you up on the phone and said, "What's with Hawaii?" And, okay, so what happened with that?
It's really based on the third principle of Huna. Third principle of Huna says that energy flows where attention goes. So what that means is where we put our focus and attention elicits the creative energies of the universe to bring to us the nearest physical equivalent of whatever we're placing our focus and attention on. And I had been putting so much focus and attention on Hawaii that I was allowing a group of psychics to work in my office on Friday nights because they just did a group and they rented it out, and I wasn't at the group, and the head facilitator sent me a text message one night after they had all met, and he said, "What's going on with Hawaii?" And I had not told anyone in this group. This group barely even knew me about anything Hawaiian. And he said, "Well, all the psychics were getting all these Hawaiian gods and goddesses, and they were all on their phones Googling them because they had never seen them before, and they seem to have been Hawaiian. What's going on?" And this is true. My hand on a stack of Bibles is true. At the moment that I got this text message, I was laying down in my apartment reading a book on Hawaiian spirituality. That is absolutely true.
Yeah.
And it was just so crazy. But because energy flows where attention goes, and I put so much attention and focus on Hawaii, I had created an energetic current to the island 5,000 miles away that was finding itself in my workspace.
See, that's the magic element. And there are people who go to Hawaii and have these experiences that can happen so easily when you go into a place of that kind of, with that kind of spirit power.
Yeah, I mean, Hawaii sits on a spiritual vortex. In fact, there used to be a huge landmass where Hawaii now stands, much bigger than Hawaii, called Mu, the continent of Mu, M-U. The non-Hawaiians call it Lemuria. And before cataclysmic changes in the earth, this was a place of deep spiritual richness, and it's been theorized that either this was the recipient of spiritual influences from across the world, or the source of all the esoteric wisdom out to the world. And it hasn't been decided which one it is, but you feel that mana, that power, that spiritual power, when you go to the island. If you're looking for it, if you just want to have a beach vacation, you can do that too. But if you're looking for it, the land itself is really infused with spirit, and with the sense that it has been a spiritual vortex for millennia. There are some people who talk about the certain places on the earth being chakras, and Hawaii being the heart chakra of the earth. We all have chakras, and because we're only a microcosm of the macrocosm, that means that the earth has chakras too. And so Hawaii is a real vortex for that. So yes, it's really possible. I often actually Serge jokes about that there are a lot of born again Hawaiians, because the people who get it, they really get it, and that's holy land for them. And just to say, if it's not holy land for you, it doesn't matter. You will find a place geographically that might be. But the point in writing the book is about that this sort of magical existence of synchronicity and of a sense that you're working with energy, and that your thoughts create reality, and that energy flows where attention goes, and that love can infuse everything in your life. This is a reality that you can create anywhere. What I love about Hawaii is that when you're just there, you feel it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's the one thing you said, you could take Hawaii with you wherever you go. Okay, so, and then you're moving.
I'm moving. Yeah, it's tough. I think I think that the COVID-19 is a very specific medicine. I think of COVID-19 as a spirit. I know a lot of people think of it as a virus. I think of it as a spirit, because I think whether or not it's affecting you physically or not, it's affecting you. Yeah. And more than anything else, it's causing those of us who are really supposed to wake up, to be those light workers on the planet, to shepherd in the new way. We're all being woken up, and COVID-19 helps us go inward, look at what it is that we have to look at, fortify, strengthen, build our courageousness, so that when we really can go outside again and the new normal starts, we know our place. And so I feel like this is a time when so many people, including myself, have really been making this deep recalibration with: am I in the job I want? Am I in the city that I want? Am I in the friendships that I want? What's important to me? And it just got really clear to me I thought Hawaii was much farther away for me, just in terms of time, but it just got really clear since March that no, it's time. And I think if I'm going to stay on brand, then I really have to, I have to deep into my own courageousness and make some big choices for myself, and know that's home, and that's where I'm supposed to go.
Well, I'm going to offer you my condolences in advance. I really am sorry that you have to move to Hawaii, and that is where your spirit is calling you. Okay.
I know. It's very sad. It's very sad.
Oh, many tears will be shed. Yes, they will. And you're jumping for joy as you shed them. Is there anything you'd like to add that I might have overlooked?
The Shaman's Mind, Huna Wisdom to Change Your Life. You can get it on Amazon. You can reach me at jonathanhammond.com. Bring aloha into your life. If your mind is filled with aloha, your world will be too. That's not something cute. That's actually the truth. So invite that into your life, and let go of anything that isn't love.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. I love your book. I love the way you've laid it out. It's very accessible, and I'm hoping other people will enjoy it as much as I do. So JonathanHammond.com is the connect. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you so much for having me. Aloha.
Previous shows are stored in the archives, Wendy's Coffee House Audio Boom, and links are at wendyscoffeehouse.com.
I'm at the football game. I'm at the grocery store. What? I'm at the combination football game and grocery store.
Wait, you're at the football game and the grocery store?
Nah, I'm at the combination football game and grocery store. Groceries through Instacart, delivered to my door. I don't have to choose between football and the grocery store.